as a substitute for consulting a licensed medical professional. Some concepts presented herein may be theoretical and have little or no scientific substantiation. Users are advised to conduct their own diligence.
Welcome to Ask the Experts, where you'll learn about a variety of life-enhancing subjects. Mike's up.
Okay.
Healing and whole food nutrition with the Natural Health Authority, Jason Eagle of Strategic Healing. And now here's Jason.
Hello. Hello, everybody. This is Jason Eagle, your Natural Health Authority, with another show. And if you're keeping score like I am, this is actually show number 44. Wow. That's hard to believe, but I do. This is Jason Eagle, your Natural Health Authority. I have a company called Strategic Healing. You can call my number, the office, if you want to get a hold of me. It's 734-985-5891. My website is strategichealing.us. Right now, I'm actually on my Facebook Live page, so you can actually watch me and then go back and watch me later on the radio, but not on the radio, on Facebook Live, which is Strategic Healing. And then also I post these shows later on my YouTube channel, which is Jason Eagle QRA. I am a quantum reflex analysis practitioner and soft tissue specialist, which means I treat the whole person and I treat you naturally. I use ways and methods of using only natural things to address what's going on, including only natural ways of testing. So I do testing, but we don't. You don't draw any blood. I don't take any saliva. I don't take any swabs or anything like that. Now, if you have that information from your doctors, I can look at that too, and I can help you decipher them and help you to work your relationship with them. But the whole idea of the relationship with you and your health and your doctor and me is to be, how do I fix this so that I go back to being natural? So I go back to, can I live a life where I don't have to take drugs, where my drugs or the things that I use to modify my health, fix and raise and lower things and all that other stuff is actually foods, and also exercise and breathing and grounding and all these things that are my responsibility to do and within my reach of my ability to then do myself. That's the whole point. This is Jason Eagle, your Natural Health Authority, and today we're going to talk about, first of all, we're going to do an update on some of the newest information from the CDC in terms of the COVID death numbers, what it means, also some other data and total death numbers, which is, there's this recent, basically they came out with new numbers, and this whole thing about 6%. 6%, meaning they're within the COVID death rates. Okay, so they recently, now not all the numbers are in, but as close as we can see, now we have different numbers, which is there's total death rates, and then there are the COVID death rates. Now, this is all based upon, first of all, is if you go back to one of my other shows where I talk about what's called death certificates. A death certificate, because see, if you go back to the CDC too, and I can share that document, you can find it yourself. Just go to the CDC. And what it does is it lists off now what up to date, what have been designated as on the death certificate somewhere, whether it was the top or somewhere else, COVID was written in there, meaning it was the prime cause, of which it basically, the way that you could read the data is that actually only 6% of all of the deaths have only COVID on it. That means that the 94% of the COVID death rates is, up to this point, is they're saying that there's 161,392 total COVID death rates. Now, when we get to, I've also been doing research on this. Let's say this was, now we're also looking out of those numbers. That's the death rates of just that were associated with COVID. Now, every year there is an average of a certain amount. I went back and we don't have the data in for 2019 yet, but if you just go into what are the total deaths, because that's the other thing that I'm going to do today is I'm going to use this data to kind of go, what does it say? Does it say this? And one side says, whoopee, yay, we're right. And the other side says, wait a minute, So where I'm going to fall somewhere, I've done research on this, and I'm going to fall, and I'm going to help you to get through falling somewhere in the middle of what does it mean. And yes, it does mean that the COVID definitely had an effect. This virus is different, and it definitely killed people. And even this 94%, which just means that 94% of all of these numbers, they had pre-existing conditions, meaning they had other things going on. Then the other thing that is probably the biggest take-home message out of all of this, because let me remind you, why do I go over this data with you? What's this got to do with my practice of being to help you? My whole practice of what I do in terms of health is the number one thing is to give you knowledge. And what does knowledge do? It doesn't give you the ability to go, I'm right, or it doesn't give you the ability to fight with people and be either stressed out or or totally, lackadaisical, meaning, I don't care. No, the whole point of having knowledge is so that you are able to build up confidence, so that you know that whatever you're doing in life, in terms of taking care of your own life, and it still is your own life, you are still a sovereign human being, and you have the right to do whatever you want, okay? But you also don't have the right to harm other people. And so that's the other things we're trying to determine. What have we done to mitigate harm to other people? And I'm also going to get into this today because it seems like some of the take-home messages is, let me just kind of give you the cliff notes of today's show, is we're going to talk about this information, how it means that you, for sure, fix your pre-existing conditions. For sure, you take care of people in nursing homes, because this is just the United States, but the world is pretty similar too. 90% of all of the people that died from this, whether only because of this or it was one of the contributing, 90% of them were in nursing homes. And they were very, very far along in age and relative health. So the other take-home message is stop worrying about kids. Stop worrying about children. And the numbers on the CDC is 0 to 24. And I'm going to go over what those numbers are. You will not believe how low they are. And you should believe it, because the numbers are so low. Which it should give you a sigh of relief. The take-home message is I believe kids should be in school. I believe kids should be unmasked in school and should not be having to do this type of learning. And we have a potential of harming people by reducing facial contact and physical contact, especially among kids. Again, the other part of this thing is the fix worse than the disease. And then the other thing that we know, that the other take-home message about this whole thing is this data should tell you that however you side on this data, the best thing, what it should do is reduce your fear and anxiety. You should have confidence going, I'm safe. Whew, I feel better. I feel better now. I feel better doing this, or I feel better doing this. Whatever you're doing, it should increase your level of health and not decrease your level of health. And this information that I'm going to give you, I'm going to tell you the cliff notes is that's what you should get out of it. Everybody on either side of this, whether it's political or whatever, should get out of this. It really means that you should take heart and be at peace, that we are all doing the right thing and you can do the right thing and we're all helping each other. But you got to help yourself. And the first thing of helping yourself is getting out of fear. And also getting out of fear of what other people are doing. As long as you're doing what you believe and you know, and you can even document and saying, I'm doing what they told me to do. And if it gives you confidence, that's the whole thing. So let's get to this. Just Jason Eagle, your Natural Health Authority. The CDC came out with its most recent numbers. Now, again, I'm going to also go into, okay, every year, how many people in the United States die? Okay? And then it lists off like how many died from heart disease, how many died from cancer, blah, blah, blah. Okay. We don't have the numbers for 2019 in yet, and so we don't know. But as of 2017, there were 2,813,503 resident deaths, meaning that's people that were residents of the United States that lived here, and that averages about 7,708 a day. That's 2017. 2018 went up a little bit, which is 2,839,205 resident deaths. Okay, that seems like a lot. That's a lot, but that's how many people. Now, That's in a population, as of now, the total population of the United States is 327 million. Okay? So as of today, out of 327 million, we've found that there's 161,392 that had some form of COVID on their death certificate. Now, out of that 161,000, only 6% had only the COVID death where the doctors said, and is that what that means? But I'm going to say that maybe, okay, possibly where that means for sure it was only COVID that killed them. Whereas out of those, all of those 161,000, 94% had what they say is 2.6 additional conditions, what is called pre-existing conditions when you're living, and then after you're dead, these are called comorbidities, meaning had something to do with that. So if you break down the percentage based upon population and all this other stuff, the COVID-only numbers, which is the 6%, that is, what is the percentage of everything? That is 0.0000296%. That's the percentage of how much in total deaths it is. Way super low. Okay. Now, that gives us a tendency to kind of go, and again, people are going, they were falsely reporting numbers, and now the numbers are out there, and that is not to be argued with. Now, what's to be argued with is what does it mean? Okay, what does it mean? Now, some are jumping for joy, going, yeah, we were right, which is that 6%. It means that it's so low and everything like that. The other part of this talk today is going, well, what's the true answer? Okay, so everybody should basically know this. There's a total death numbers in terms of, forget about just sectioning out COVID numbers. Are the up to the year to this date basically beginning of 2020, and we really have to kind of basically consider part of 2019. So let's say December of 2019 up to now, what are the total death rates? Okay, and then average that based upon, like I said, over years. We know what 2017 was been. We know, and they know what the flu numbers are in there, which is, I think, usually like they say a normal flu death is around 30 to 40,000. A big flu, real bad flu year is right around 70,000 or something like that. Okay, so the question is, forget about where you stand on this number, on just the COVID numbers. Up to this date, are there more people that died, just total deaths, than other years? And I will tell you, yes. Yes, there is. There absolutely is. Now, the way of finding that number, I tried to do research, as I said, is I could not find the 2019 numbers because they're not out yet. So we don't know how many millions have died totally within 2019. And we're now in 2020 and we still don't know that, okay? But one of the things that we do know is that if you can compare previous years against times, there's what's called a U.S. excess death rate. There's also world excess death rates, which means we know the numbers are average. Now, is there an excess in, let's say, a period of time, meaning you got way more in this period of time? And then if we were to add up all the numbers at the end of the year, how many extra people did we have than we normally did? Okay, that will tell you that there is an effect of COVID. Now, this question is it literally the virus that is killing more people, or is it more people are dying from the response to the COVID? Okay, so let's get into I know this is confusing, some people may be ready to check out right now, but I will give you the cliff notes on what this means, but I'm just going over the raw data, okay? So U.S. excess death rates from the period of March 1st, so right in the center of this, right in the middle of where this was the worst, okay? So 3-month period of March to May 30th, you can look at, there is what's called excess death rates. Are there more than there usually was? Yes, there were. And they basically in the United States, from May to March 30th, the excess death rate is 122,000 extra people. than normally died that time of year and many years previous. So there's a big hump there. There's a big lump there. That is now, okay, now the UK also presents that their numbers said that they had a 20% spike in excess death rates within that period of time. Spain said they had 40%. So there's definitely way more people dying than normally would this time of year. Now, but does that mean it's all COVID, or does it also mean the effects of COVID? This is what we're trying to still trip out. Now, I'm going to tell you, we don't have that data, but I'm going to basically say you can start putting on your spy cap and you can start putting on your Sherlock Holmes and go, okay, what are some of the other factors that lead us towards it's most likely the response of fear, the increased drug deaths, the increased mental, basically anxiety and things like that, the social destruction, the societal destruction, the economic destruction, the mental, these things. How do we know that those are probably the contributing factors? Because within this numbers, which is okay, within May to, even till now, it's starting to change. But because everyone was in lockdown, including the world, you had a huge drop in traffic deaths, meaning people were not driving. And normally in the year, within that 2 million plus, there's a huge number that are traffic mortalities. And homicide numbers went way down. So people coming in the hospital, remember, people were not going into the hospital. And the hospital were saying, we're basically kind of empty. We got a bunch of COVID people, but we're blocking out other people. And these people are not coming. So does it also say that there's been a number of people in these excess death rates that actually just died at home? And they could have died because of the COVID or the effects of it. Now, the numbers that went down, so even though the excess death rates, there's more people on average within this period of time, and 122 went up. But that's with the reduction. It should have gone down if you include all the people that didn't die in traffic accidents and all the people that didn't die from killings and homicides, and also the people that didn't die from in emergency room visits from heart attacks. There was a whole bunch of people that they thought, what happened to the heart attacks? There was a whole bunch of emergency room visits that went down. So as those numbers are going down, we're having an increase. So where is this increase coming from? Again, it's not out yet, but this is where it begs to kind of go, wait a minute, there's got to be some other death cause. Did we underestimate even all the COVID deaths? Or again, there's no way that you can truly measure the impact of, again, the fear and anxiety, and again, people staying home and saying, you know what? I'm just going to start drinking. Because here's the other thing that we know for sure is the alcohol sales numbers went through the roof. The medical marijuana and recreational marijuana went way up. Street drugs, prescription drugs in terms of people taking, the opiate type of stuff, those things went way up. Especially alcohol. People stayed home watching the Netflix and drinking a lot more. Or drinking in a depressive stupor that eventually led them to kind of go, some of these deaths, these increased deaths, we still don't know what the suicide rate is, but we do know that the suicide rate has gone way up. Again, that's related to COVID, but it's actually the virus that kills you? No, it's the depression, the freak out, and literally everyone going, this world stinks. The way it is right now, I don't want to live here anymore. Or people being shut out or something like that. Old people that basically they didn't have their same level of again, how many old people that were not in a nursing home, should have been in a nursing home, but are staying at home, and the family members that were normally there to go, hi, Grandma, I'm here every week to give you your groceries, were like, don't go to Grandma, leave her alone. How many grandma and grandpas and older people just dried up at home because they didn't have that societal level of support? This is within these numbers, and I'm telling you that's where it's looking. It's looking that it is the impact of the cure or the fix can be worse than the actual disease. So again, world population the total population in the United States, 327 million within this year. Out of that, Normally, almost 3 million people die every year, right? How many more is going to be this year? Now, we know that the 161,392 are basically what they say are all of the COVID deaths. All of the deaths that said it had the word COVID on it, so it had something to do with it. But only 6% of that number, which is, the actual number, which is, you could say maybe this is true. How many people died? How many people died only from COVID? That number is 9,682. So the question is for many people is, we shut this whole thing down for just less than 10,000 people? Yeah, we did. We did. And again, I argue too that there's going to be some great resolve that comes from this. The social distancing, I do believe, has really had it does. It had a huge effect, and it's killed a bunch of different viruses that just didn't have the ability to share. Viruses and many of these diseases are like this, which is, I like to use this analogy. If you have, say, an iPhone, okay? Let's say you have an older iPhone that's maybe 5 years old, which is super old in iPhone world. If it sat in your drawer for, let's say, 5 years and it was not turned on, and you say, oh, you know what, I'm going to use it, and you pull it out of the drawer and you turn it on, it will not work, because what has to happen is iPhones have to constantly update. And if it gets too far behind in updates, it's too far gone, and it gets cut out of the system, and it will not be able to connect to other phones because it's too far out of the updates. That's what viruses are, is they have to share data. They have to constantly be updating. And if they get shut out from being able to pass from one person to another, then literally their line dies out and it's gone. We're going to see a bunch of people that are a lot healthier because of this type of thing. Now, who do we do it with? Okay, this 90% nursing home says, yes, it's actually super smart that we did this with nursing homes. We've totally changed how nursing homes are moved. I have a family member that is in one of these, has been in one of things, and I've not been able to visit, except for being outside now. They're able to visit on the outside in total open air. We got to wear the mask and everything like that. This has increased the level of health within nursing homes. And after these big, huge deaths that we had, we've now learned. And so in the future, again, which wave are we going to be in? Ideally, whatever wave we hit, the best thing to do is to take care of the sick people, the sickest people, and then, but then let the rest of the people be free, okay? Especially children. When you get into, so now let me get into this is going to blow your mind, okay? So based upon the CDC numbers, people who are worried about their children, and this includes a baby up to 24 years old. They're calling a 24-year-old a child, right? So that means you're, all the way up to your college students, okay? Out of 161,392, only 309 are listed as not just only COVID death, but it was traced in their body. Literally, this was part of that, we found a trace of the antibodies in their body. Okay, 309 out of 161,000. Do you know how tiny that is? Okay, so people kind of go, I'm really worried, like it could happen. Mine could be the one. No, yours is not the one. And within that age, that's such a small, teeny number. Now, some people says only one it counts. You have no guarantee in this life. We have no guarantee that it's always been true that a person can catch a virus. It's always been true that a person can catch a bacteria. It's always been true that you can get hit on your way to middle school, right? So no, let's not think that we're just trying to stave off death. Okay? It's always going to be with you. So what Jesus said, which is, don't think you're going to ever get rid of poverty. The poor will always be with you. Why? Because there's just people who are just not capable of even keeping any wealth whatsoever. And again, you can give it to them. You can give people all the, even in a hospital, you can give them all the life-saving things, and their body still, you can't make it. Can't make it happen. But how can we create conditions that's more conducive for most people to be able to be healthier rather than not? That's the answer. That's the goal. So, again, going back to who is right here? What is this data? Does it mean it's fake? Does it mean it's real? Again, the answer is still yet to be seen, but we know the numbers are showing this, is that how many more deaths do we have within this? And the year's not over, so we can't really get the data in yet. How many more deaths this year than last year? So even people who are naysayers on, this is all a hoax. Okay, way more people, but not way more, but again, a good amount more. A good, just in that period of 3 months, that's an extra 122,000 people died. That's excess. That means something's going on. That means you're going to look at the end of this year and the number's going to be higher. Now, how much of that means actual virus? It's low. It's actually low. It's much, 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 much lower than they were saying. However, no one could tell you that there's two things to the COVID. There's the actual virus, and then there's what we did, what we're doing to society. And again, there's some good and there's some bad. There's some good that's going to come even from the bad stuff. But here's the goal, is when do we say, okay, it's time to back off of that? Okay, some of the huge social destruction in terms of people doing more alcohol and drugs and sedentary things is the health clubs closed. You couldn't go work out at Lifetime, whether you're rich or poor. Okay, you can work out in your basement, but there's a ton of people who just don't do that. There's a ton of people who were literally afraid and are still holed up with their mask in their house. And as I said, I encourage you to go out walking, and there were a bunch more people walking, but as average, people got worse in terms of health care, in terms of exercise and movement. People, again, what is the level of, however unhealthy you are, a good night with your friends, a good church time, a good togetherness, societal time, or even just walking down the road and seeing somebody smile at you that you can't see now because they have the mask on. You know how many people have basically said, the truth is I was ready to commit suicide, and I was standing at the edge of the bridge, and some person driving by, some little kid just smiled at me. And that was enough to get through. That was enough, and that stopped it. And that's, how do I know that? Because I'm that person. This is true. So there's a bunch of different things that we have taken out that have made us more unhealthy, that we should bring back in. And we can bring back in because based upon what those numbers are, this should give us more confidence of, it's true. The CDC even did say that, like, asymptomatic people, if you don't have symptoms but you test positive, as I said on last week's show, which is, you can't really get, the numbers are so low, so low of the incidences of where they think that a person caught it from a person who didn't have symptoms, that you can basically say, if you have it, you test positive, because that means your immune system took care of it. Your immune system. I've recommended them again, go to MediciEnterprises.com. This is Dr. Vincent Medici out in California. He does a radio show. Listen to his most recent show where he talks about the B cells and the T cells and what we are picking up when we're testing and what does it mean. And the big thing means is the children in particular, they have their immune system response is so much quicker. But again, their immune system gets shared with other immune systems. And so very good, healthy immune systems, we've already built herd immunity. Meaning, when are we going to do it? We've already done it. We've already built herd immunity. And that means that the sections of society that are the healthiest should mix together, should go back to mixing again, breathing this air and being in physical contact. If you understand immunology, that's what it means. And so that means we will see the film places, basically the movie houses open. We will see the health clubs. Movie houses I could do without. But, again, some people really get enjoyment of going out to the movies, going out to dinner, meaning having that anniversary, or going and working out every day or once a week. Or, I'm looking forward to the OPC opening. I love swimming. I miss swimming. I really, really miss, that's my favorite type of exercise. But you can't until they're open. Okay, these are basically, and then the economic thing, which is businesses being able to open. businesses being able, because people that say, well, it's just property, it's not people's lives. Yes, it is. Property and livelihood is the same thing as lifeblood. And so if you break someone's building, or literally break the system of their building, of being able to people to come to you and say, well, you can just go online. Online does not work the way that other people think. It works for some and it doesn't work for others. And many people have not come up to that curve yet and are not going to. And are you happy with them just being gone? Okay, no, so it's time to start opening things back up on certain levels. And then it's time to keep other things closed down and keep a good wraps on it. And then it's time to also, so again, I think we've made some changes in terms of businesses and schools. So even if a school was completely open, let's say a Christian school, which has every right to say, listen, we're not, we're a private school. You can't shut us down. They could be completely maskless. But if somebody gets sick, or, for instance, the whole everyday, assembly should be like, before you would have said, I just want to keep working through it. If you got a hint of not feeling good, go home and stay home. And you don't get penalized for it. And we have systems because we've lived through this already. So no one's going to get in trouble. No one's going to lose the money. So there are no penalties of going, I got the sniffles. I really should stay home. How many times of people sharing any type of virus or bacteria or cold or whatever was because they were sniffling and coughing on you and stuff like that. We are now in so much guard of that. And we are supporting people doing self-care. Get yourself out of there and stay home for 2 weeks. Stay home for the 14 days. That's smart. Okay? And that is going to make huge. And so now we didn't think that we could do that because we were afraid of what it was going to do. We didn't think that companies could keep most of their workforce or a good portion of their workforce at home. And now we learn we can, but we're also learning that there's some people who can't do that very well and really need, like the new people, they need to be at the water cooler talking with people. So now we have to have a hybrid system of a combination of some people that are in physical contact and some people that we've learned we don't need to do that. You can stay, that type of thing. And it saves money and it works better for how you work. You can be in your pajamas and you want. I know a bunch of people who said, God, it's been so great for me to just not have to wear makeup and try and fake it for these people. Like, I feel I get so much more work done. So we are coming to, some good decisions out of this. But as I said, is what this information is all about is take heart that it is happening a good way. And take heart that whatever is a bad way, all you have to do is start recognizing it, talking about it. So like, Facebook and Twitter blocking and banning things, they're making it worse. They're making it worse because, again, if you block people from speaking about something, you just make them kind of go, I guess I was right then. If you want to silence me, then I guess you just made me even more double down on what I thought I believed, and even more so isolated from talking to people back and forth. And so it sides people up even more so. So if Twitter and YouTube and stuff like that and Facebook is banning you, don't stop talking to real people. And that's one of the things, is getting together physically and actually talking about these things. This whole thing where people used to say, we don't talk politics, religion, and COVID. Talk politics, religion, and COVID. Argue if you want. Don't fight. Don't get angry. But the more talk, that's the thing. Diversity and all this stuff really, really helps. And that's what the big take-home condition or take-home message out of this is, that these numbers should tell both sides and actually both sides to get off your sides, stop being at a stupid side, be somewhere in the middle, being able to really say, what does it really, put your thinking cap on. And if you got to do your research out there. The numbers are out there. If you need somebody to help you through, I can help you. As I said, Dr. Vincent Medici, go to he's got a bunch of shows every week on Saturday. He does it, and you can go to the archives and he'll tell you. And he really understands immunology. He'll tell you all the names of the people, the doctors that knew the right numbers, and then the doctors and the statisticians that had the fake numbers or the overinflated numbers that we went with, and blah, blah, blah. And it gives you the ability to really start to kind of go, I think I really have a better idea of what's going on here, and which means that now I know what to do. Because the biggest thing is we need to reduce our fear and anxiety, because that is a huge contributing factor to whatever's going on. Fix the pre-existing conditions. The pre-existing conditions of today, we're going to talk about hypertension, blood pressure. Okay, that's one of the top ones that was listed in my practice when I see people coming, which is the people that are on the most different types of medications and most type of things is high blood pressure medication. It is the most often thing that I see. Okay. And it's one of the things that is that it's almost all of the additional pre-existing conditions. It was high blood pressure, hypertension, and it was diabetes or or high blood sugar. Today we're going to talk about high blood pressure. Now, high blood sugar and high blood pressure, they're completely related. They totally are. But going back to, again, the take-home message, which is the other thing, is being able to sort through your brain so that you can then make the decisions on how you're going to live your life and how you're going to share your life with other people, which is make sure that the fix, which is this is what I'm doing to protect myself from this, make sure that the fix is not worse than the disease itself. And the things of what's happening to businesses, that's worse. Okay, the things that's happened to schools, that's worse. The thing that's happened to health clubs, that's worse. The thing that's happened to community, that's worse. Notice I'm not talking about anything viral at all, anything in terms of an actual disease. The things about increased alcohol and drug use and isolation and all these things, increased fighting back and forth. We haven't even talked about whether you believe that they are riots or they are people, assembling in protests. Again, and forget about the protest, about being hassled, just being out and about if you're not wearing your mask right, or even wearing a mask, and the social pressure and all this other stuff. I'm telling you, I went through a ton of anxiety. I'm now feeling much, much better by treating with some of the good supplements and eating, and also just the right perspective. Like, realize that people say, it's not really it's affected us all. This has affected us all. The world is not the same, and it's never going to be the same. And there is, stages of grief that we go through, and there is bargaining, there is denial, and then there's just the cold acceptance. Let the water go into your lungs and just go, this is my time. That's the example. The world is dead. The world that we knew. But that a new thing, what do they show? They always show the phoenix rises from the ashes. That phoenix is the spirit, and it's the new thing. A new thing always comes through. And behold, I do a new thing. I am a new thing. Shall ye not know it? And every moment is, behold, I do a new thing. This is Jason Eagle, your Natural Health Authority. I'm going to take a little commercial break, and I'll be right back.
If we've learned anything from the recent medical crisis, it's how extremely important it is to maintain our good health. Diabetes, asthma, pain, and other underlying conditions weaken our ability to stave off viruses and heal even minor scrapes and cuts. This is why it is so vital to heal, not just treat, chronic health issues. It is possible to overcome underlying health issues and return to a strong and healthy state, and it can be done naturally without the inevitable side effects of medication. But first, you must make that choice to be healthy. Your next step is to contact Jason Eagle of Strategic Healing Center at 734-985-5891. Jason will get to the heart of what is really causing your underlying health issues. Then he'll create a customized plan that will get you back to your natural, healthy self. Get on the path to better health. Call 734-985-5891 to make your appointment with Jason Eagle of Strategic Healing. Or go online to wrdt560.com/askingtheexperts and click on Strategic Healing. And tune into AM 560 WRDT every Wednesday afternoon at 1 for healthy living advice from Jason Eagle on Ask the Experts. Mike's up.
Okay, everybody, this is Jason Eagle, your Natural Health Authority, and getting back to the show. Again, let's just recap what we went over. The numbers tell a story that it's not as bad as we thought it is. But yes, it's as bad and actually worse than what we thought it is. But what is worse? The biggest thing for sure is definitely the impact, the economic impact and the social impact. Now, part of what and all this other stuff, and that's still yet to be seen. We don't know that. But the biggest thing is get your head on straight, get your heart on straight, get your mind on straight. Do not be afraid, and learn to be healthy. Now, again, the other thing that this shows, okay, is that underlying health conditions is 94% of that. So it points out, and 90% of these things are people who have been living in places where all have underlying health conditions. Nursing homes are all just underlying health conditions, because not all old people have to be in a nursing home. Again, when you're 85 does not mean you have to be in a nursing home or convalescent home. Okay, I'm going to get into this hypertension too, okay? Because even though it's one of the biggest thing, okay, listen to this. This will blow you away. High blood pressure, okay? So hypertension, high blood pressure is characterized. Give me a second, I'm going to take a little sip here. Okay, so when you get your blood pressure measured, that cuff for, let's say you go to a Walgreens or something like that, and you sit there and they basically take your blood pressure. What should a perfect blood pressure be? No matter how old you are, no matter how old, I don't care if you're 85 or you're 12 or 25. Perfect blood pressure is two numbers, which are called diastolic and systolic. Diastolic, okay? The first number should be 115. It used to be 120, but they dropped it down. The second number is 75. It used to be 80. So if you're 120 over 80, that's perfect. What's super perfect, meaning that's what you would see in an athlete or a person that you can say, wow, you're going to live forever. It's 115 over 75, okay? Hypertension, meaning high blood pressure, pre-hypertensive, is 130 over, let's say, 85 over 90, okay? What is blood pressure? High blood pressure is a reading greater than 150 over 90. So if you measure your blood pressure, it's 150 over 90, and you live like that for quite a while, it's going to speed up your rate of death. It's going to definitely alter all kinds of things in your health. So that's why they put people on high blood pressure medication to lower their high blood pressure medication, because many people have high blood pressure and they can't tell. They don't feel any different. I feel fine, right? And then many people can be walking around with like up 200, or let's say 180 over 160, like super, super high type of stuff. And they don't feel any different. So what are the big things that are the most, well, first of all, let's say this. Okay, let's talk about who has it the most and blah, blah, blah. What are the different types of conditions? But let's first of all say what can be done about it. What can be done about it? Just like, because I'm going to cut to the chase, this is a good story. This is not a bad story. And this means also that drugs are not even the answer, okay? Most cases of hypertension, can be brought under control through changes in diet and lifestyle. Almost 100%. If you change what you eat and all this other stuff. Now, causes? What is the number one causes? The number one cause is diet. Okay? Now, we also lifted, let's say, weight, excess weight, people who are really obese, lifestyle, meaning lack of exercise, okay? These types of things. Caffeine use, alcohol, smoking, stress, lack of exercise, heavy metals, especially cadmium, okay? So one of the big things that's the top one is smoking, okay? Smoking is definitely listed, okay? Now, let me tell you that the truth is can you be a smoker and not have this high blood pressure? That's impossible, Jason. You can't. Okay, here's what the Western diet. The Western diet is the main reason, because we know the numbers state that that hypertension is another one of the many diseases or syndromes associated with the Western diet. How do we know that? And it is found almost entirely in developed countries. So if you got a country that's developing or becomes developed like United States, if they get a Tim Hortons or a McDonald's, that's a development, right? Okay. So, but people living in remote areas of China, they're heavy smokers. Solomon Islands, they're heavy smokers. New Guinea, pretty heavy smokers. Panama, pretty heavy smokers. Brazil. No, I'm not saying you need to smoke. Don't smoke. But what this says is that these people, okay, so people living in remote areas of China, Solomon Islands, New Guinea, Panama, Brazil, and Africa show virtually no evidence of essential hypertension, nor do they experience a rise in blood pressure with advancing age. That means the old people in this place don't get high blood pressure. And many of them are still smokers. But what's the difference? Why? Why? How can you be a smoker? And I'm not saying this. What this points to is it is diet. So what that means is, here's also the other thing it says, when racially identically members of these societies migrate to less remote areas, move to the cities, and adopt a more civilized diet, the incidence of hypertension increases dramatically. Okay. My example was these 4 Eskimo boys that got put into, they were living with their Eskimo family, eating eating the blubber and stuff like that, pure fat, but they were super healthy and they were out, hunting seal with their grandpas, but they got put in the system and they got sent to Washington State. And there was a doctor who was really interested in nutrition and tracked them because after a matter of within a year, they became morbidly obese. And these were young kids. These were kids that were between 12 and 15 years old. Okay. And then they developed hypertension, high blood pressure, all the way they had to be put on medication. And, they got real bad stuff, diabetes stuff. And it was very quickly. It was super quickly. Now, this doctor essentially was able to, through the state, said, give me permission to I'll take responsibility of them, give them to me, and I'll send them back home. He had a theory, and he sent them back home. Basically, he got the government to pay for them to go back and move back home and live off of that same identical diet. And within less than a year, these kids all went back to their original state without medication, without any extra exercise, without any extra diet. They just went back to their old way of eating, and they went back to perfect weight, perfect health. All the stuff disappeared. So we can 100% say the biggest causes is our eating. Why? Because people that eat the indigenous way, eat, like say, fruits and vegetables in these areas that are not factory farmed, that still has the minerals and all of the good things still in the soil, they never get heart disease. They never get high blood pressure, no matter how old they get. And they still may be smoking, okay? So in Western society, the crappy food and your smoking and all of these not exercising, these things contribute to it. It makes it much worse, okay? Just like the analogy as I was saying, that the COVID definitely did make these people with comorbidities, or it makes it worse. Okay, if you get exposed to the COVID or exposed to this virus in particular, if you do have breathing troubles and high blood pressure, it's more damaging for you. You better take care of yourself. And again, I'm here to help you. Let's get to the bottom of this and fix this so it's as if you never had it and you don't even have to take medication to fix it. Because the medications are things that can really actually speed up. Drug therapy usually involves associated with many side effects. And it can actually make things worse, okay? So what are some of the things that we can do about it? Number one, diet. If your blood pressure is over 150 over 90, and even if you are treating with medication, fix your diet. Number one, the biggest thing is reduce your sodium and increase your potassium. Again, you'll get that from eating better whole foods. The vegetarian diet, I'm not a huge proponent for a person with just an all vegetarian diet, but to get your numbers down, it's the best thing to do. Eating lots of fiber, eating lots of vegetable fiber. Cut back on the meat and get vegetables. Because again, your body needs the protein that you would get from meat, but if you got too much stuff in your system that is increasing, like too much cholesterol deposits, make your body eat those cholesterol deposits by going on a vegetarian diet, okay? Until your numbers come back in, and then you can go back to a better, more sensible way of eating. 100% it's sugar. 100% reduce the sugar. Reduce the common table sugar, and also reduce the wheat, reduce the cakes, the cookies, the high refined foods, these types of things. Reduce those things, okay? And it's easier for people, again, with this these new companies like Freshly and stuff like that, even like say some of the frozen dinners are getting much, much healthier. But again, you can cook your own. And if you're too lazy or you don't know how to do that, there's these great companies for about the same amount of price. You can have really good fresh food, freshly made, that doesn't have all these preservatives and stuff like that sent to you. Here's the biggest things in terms of what do we supplement with? What are the real big things that are related to high blood pressure? And again, this is the number one thing that was on the list of all of these things that made it worse for people if they got exposed and their immune system couldn't handle the virus or any type of illness. Okay, or even handle high anxiety and high cortisol levels and all this other stuff from people being in just the stressful world that we're in. Number one, increase your magnesium. When your muscles are firing, so even people that are super healthy, like I am, but are being exposed to this very high tension world, my muscles are tense and I don't even know it. And I'm using up my magnesium. And I use up all these different enzymes, as I was talking about, and amino acids. And I need to absolutely supplement with more. Magnesium supplements are great. I like the powdered ones. I like the one that's called Calm. It's a fizzy drink. It's kind of like an Alka-Seltzer type thing, but it's calcium and magnesium. And you pour it into water, and it's lemony. I like the lemon raspberry one. Tastes great. It's awesome. Magnesium is the big essential fatty acids. That is like the DHA pills, or that's also olive oil, coconut oil, these type of things. Don't be afraid of fat. Use fat. Coenzyme CoQ10, it's a big thing, especially if you are on heart medications or the statins. A CoQ10 is essential. That really helps. Vitamin C. Vitamin C pills, even if it is just that ascorbic acid, it's shown to really, really help. Zinc. We've talked about this before, but zinc is huge. And if you want to see in my video, I have what's called the zinc challenge, where you can see how how horrible my face is. That's because I have enough zinc. But you can see two other people who took the zinc challenge and they go, tastes like nothing, tastes like water. They need zinc, right? That's a great way. And then taking that test is a way to get zinc, okay? Cardio ND, this liquid that has lots of garlic. Garlic is, and hawthornberry. Garlic and hawthornberry are the oldest known cardiotonics because number one, just think about the vampire thing. Blood. Anytime the thing going with your blood, there are blood suckers, there are blood parasites, including what's called nanobacteria blood infection, and that's the high blood sugar. All the sugar in your blood feeds these little bacteria called nanobacteria. Think about like the ants. If you leave sugar out on your counter table, you're going to get ants, and that's what's living off of your system. So the cardio ND lowers, it kills that infection inside, and then getting better blood sugar, meaning making sure you don't eat so much sugar and getting better blood sugar numbers. These are all about naturally reducing your blood pressure. Deltanol. Deltanol is what's called delta-tocotrienols. It's these little oil capsules. It's a vitamin E. Vitamin E helps to dilate the blood vessels. It helps to support the actual heart muscle itself. It's really, really good for that. It will lower blood pressure. So let's say a person has high blood pressure and they don't take any medication, but they take, let's say, 2 to 4 Deltanol. Within a couple hours, you will watch your blood pressure go down normal. Another one that works exactly that way is the fermented beets. It's this powder. You can just put it in some water or put it in a smoothie. And within 2 hours, let's say your blood pressure is 150. Take 2 scoops of the fermented beets, drink it down, and with 2 hours, your blood pressure will go back down to normal. Why? Because it increases what's called nitric oxide production. That's the whole point of your heart pumping your blood and you breathing. You're breathing oxygen into your blood and exhaling the carbon dioxide out of your blood. It's your blood that gives the oxygen to your cells that it got from the lungs, and then it also picks up the garbage can. So it's kind of like the milkman. He comes every morning, the old day milkman, he came every morning with glass bottles and he brought fresh ones with full milk, that's the oxygen, and he took away the empty bottles, which is the carbon dioxide. That's what your lungs do, that's why it's cardiothoracic, which is, it is your cardiopulmonary, which is your heart and your lungs are all part of the same system. They're two separate systems, but the heart is the thing that pumps the blood through this stuff out to the countryside, which is all your cells, delivering the goods and taking away the garbage, right? So these are the things that really, really help. And again, I can help people to do this stuff because that's what I do, is we do this naturally. I can help people determine, and there's multiple different types of diets. I've had people where they lower their blood pressure quickly by doing the ketogenic diet. There have been people that's like, for instance, a fruitarian diet, meaning, yes, it's high in sugars and stuff like that, but I've known people where that's all they did is they like went to, a tropical island thing as a retreat for like 2 months. They ate nothing but those good. Now, it's probably not just the fruits. It's the level of minerals in these things. So that's the other thing. What type of food should you eat? The most homegrown, okay, is the organic section at Whole Foods the best you can do? No. The best that you can do is actually a farm market, locally grown. And what's even better than that? Grow your own. Go to my website, strategichealing.us. Go to my Facebook page, is Strategic Healing. I got an Instagram. You should see my farm. We grow it all, and we do it the old ways too, which is we put this volcanic mineral called azomite, which has these ancient volcanic minerals that has from deep in the earth all of this. It's what they say about, like, why does Hawaii grow the best produce? Why did California used to grow the best produce? Because of all of the volcanic minerals. Now Hawaii still, because they're still brewing up volcanoes, and so all of these deep earth, very good essential nutrients. The two highest forms of nutrients that we get from seawater. So that's why island countries where the iodine is literally in the mist in the air and it rains down. And so the soil, now we're in Michigan, we have very, very little iodine. So I also supplement with kelp. I literally go out in my garden and I have a Vitamix, and I go to the Asian store and I get these big, huge bulk, like dried seaweed. It looks like a carpet mat. It looks like a big block of seaweed. And I take a couple handfuls and I put it into my Vitamix with some water. And then I pulverize it into just like a slurry. And then I strain that liquid out so I don't get any chunks. And I put it into my Hosen sprayer, that thing where normally you would spray chemicals. I just spray water and kelp onto my vegetables and onto, everywhere, the stuff that the animal's eating. And so the animals the chicken that we eat their eggs, they're eating the soil that is full of these nutrients. And they're nutrients that this land, I guarantee you, this land in Michigan that we live on, never saw that stuff, let alone it's replaced stuff that it was missing a long time ago. But there's certain nutrients, because we're landlocked here in Michigan, they never saw. So we are actually fixing the land. And it's not about really putting it into the vegetables in terms of fixing the vegetables. We're fixing the land. The idea of the most modern type of way of growing foods is not about, forget your focus about growing the foods. Grow the dirt. We also I literally go out to my woods and I get swamp dirt and swamp stuff and forest mulch and all kinds of stuff, and I haul it in and I throw it into there, and I'm delivering stuff from a forest that's never been farmed, and I farm in that. So that's why the people in these older countries never get high blood pressure, no matter how old they get, because they live this way. So if we could start living this way and start incorporating this, we would solve all of our answers. This is Jason Eagle, your Natural Health Authority. Until next time, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
You're listening to Ask the Experts with Jason.
You're all set. Thank you.
Thank you.
Free, high-energy, healthier life naturally. As a certified practitioner in multiple healing modalities, Jason creates a finely tuned and highly personalized program just for you that will get you back to living your best life. Get started today by calling 734-985-5891 to make your appointment, or go online to strategichealing.us. Strategic Healing is located at 2545 North Opdyke Road, Suite 106A in Auburn Hills. Ask the Experts with Jason Eagle of Strategic Healing can be heard every Wednesday at 1 p.m. right here on WRDT, the Word Station.
AM 560 is Detroit's Word Station. WRDT Monroe, Detroit, and WRDT life360.com. The following.
Okay, everybody. Facebook out. And I will see you next week. And thanks for all your support. Bye-bye.